Hey guys, so I'm gonna try to make this video not too long because I have a tendency to sometimes just talk for too long and then the video gets too long. Okay, so this is for reading the notes in the treble clef. I just was using this page that you see before you to make a different video for reading the notes in the treble clef for some of my students who are learning piano or playing the boom whackers. That's why I have this page already open with some notes on it. But we're going to look down here, right here, and we're going to cover some notes for recorder. So we have been learning the first three notes we learned. The first one we learned was B. So I'm going to draw a B here on the treble clef. And that not there. This we're going to do a higher one. That's the B that we've learned. So if we just take a look at where it is, where is it located? Because the thing is with the treble clef or the bass clef, but we're looking at treble clef. If you count how many lines there are, you can count from the bottom or the top. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and in between those lines there are spaces. How many spaces are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in between the lines. Okay, it'll always look like that if you're reading treble clef or bass clef, but we don't really need to worry about bass clef. So there's 5 lines and 4 spaces. Notice that this middle line, and we said that's a B. If you see a note on that middle line of the treble clef, it is a B. It is not any other note. There's no way that it could be. Treble clef, each line and each space represents a certain note, a particular note. The note that goes on the middle line is B. Okay, so if you see, there's a B, and I'll play it, see if it's in tune. There's my B on my recorder, and there it is on the piano, on the program. Okay, so that's B. Now if we want to go down a step to A is lower than B in terms of the pitch of the note. Notice we can think of this sort of as a ladder. Okay, B is on the middle line. If we go down a step down the ladder, we're going to one note lower. Okay, what note? When we go lower, we go backwards through the alphabet. So what letter comes before B in the alphabet? Well, the first letter of the alphabet, A. So this is an A, and then one. Okay, so we have learned B, which we know is the one where we've got our thumb covering the thumb hole and our index finger is covering that first hole on top. That's a B. Okay, we know that if we keep our thumb there and we cover not only the first hole with our first pointing finger, but with our middle finger we cover the next hole, that's A. And that would be actually a lower note. Okay, so if you sang that, la, la, the note is getting lower. La, la, and let's go to a G. Or la, 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 the notes are getting lower. So this is the G note. This is the first 3 notes that we've learned. And this is what they look like in the treble clef. B, A, and G. I'm going to make this note a half note. Sometimes the song is written in different ways in terms of quarter notes or half notes. Right now we're really just worried about learning to read these notes more than the actual rhythm of the notes. But okay, I'm just, for the sake of speed here, I'm going to just copy that and paste it. Okay. So notice we've got B, A, and G is the one where we're covering the top 3 holes. And we're doing that all with our left hand. We're not using our right hand yet. Our right hand could maybe be supporting it underneath. But we have to be careful if we're using our right hand that we're not covering any of the other holes. okay, when we're holding it. If we're trying to hold it with our left hand and our right hand, you don't want to cover any of the other holes yet, because we haven't, it'll affect the note that you're playing, okay? So, okay, I'm going to move on from this. I'm going to start just over here. And I'm going to pick quarter note, and I'm going to start with the G note. So notice where G is on that, if we look from the bottom line and we go up from the bottom line to the second line, that's where G is. G. Okay, if we go one higher, we're going to A. Okay, and then da 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 da. I'm going to switch to half note. Back to quarter note. Okay, stop there. Okay, so we want to try and memorize what these three notes look like. Or we definitely want to memorize G, the second line of the treble clef. Okay, so G. If the next note is on that same line, that means it's the same note, okay? Because only G goes on this line. Think of it from the bottom up, it's the second line. G, G, G. So we've got three G's, and then we go one higher. So if try fingering your G note. So we've got our thumb down, and we've got all three fingers of our left hand covering the first three holes. See if you can get a nice sounding G note. So remember, we're checking, are all our fingers covering all those holes? Are there any leaks where the air might be leaking out? You can make the position, you don't have to have it in your mouth. You can do the fingering for G and kind of move the recorder around and look at your fingers and see, am I covering those holes? You don't have to have a super tight grip. It can be fairly loose, but tight enough that you're covering those holes. Now, so I've got three G's. Remember, our breath isn't too forceful. We're not forcing the air. We're not breathing like a heavy breath. Just enough to, if you were blowing on a candle, that it wouldn't blow the candle out. It would just make the flame dance a little bit. And we're, like if you're going to spit a seed out, or if you're saying do, two, or two, the way your tongue moves, that's what you're doing to separate each note. I'm moving my tongue forward and backwards to let the air escape through and into the recorder. And then when I want to go up to an A note, A is the top, is two fingers plus the thumb. So, and then we know B is thumb and first finger. And if we go to that A, which is two fingers again, I'll make a video where I explain the song a bit better in terms of playing it on the recorder. But this is how we read the notes. We're thinking, are the notes, okay, if we memorize where G is, and we're reading the notes, when we go to A, we're asking ourselves, is the note going higher or lower? Well, from G, if we know where G is, this note is a little bit higher. It's a step up the ladder of the treble clef. So when we get to G, we don't go to H. We start over at A again. So that's A. And then we go up another step higher, and we're at B. Okay, so we can see from A to B, it's just a little bit higher. We're going from G is in a line, the second line. A is in the space above it. And then when we get to the B, that's in the next line above A note. Okay, so what happens after B here? Well, we're looking, does the next note go higher or lower? From B, it goes down a step. Is it skipping any notes, or is it just moving to that next note lower in the space below the B line? It's going to a space, and it's just below, so that must be A. And then from A, we're going down another step to that line below A, so that's our G. Okay, from G to here, hopefully we're starting to memorize where these notes are. G is that second line, B is that middle line. Okay, notice we're skipping the space in between. So we're skipping A to get from G to B. That would be a little bit harder to play. We have to, if G is all three fingers of the left hand down, for B we have to lift two fingers at the same time. I'll make it, like I said, this will be in another video where I demonstrate that. Okay, so from G to B, we're skipping A, and then we take a step down to A, another A, and then finally we end by going one step down to G. So this is what we're thinking with as we're trying to read the notes. We're trying to memorize some of them, but not all of them right away. But if we can memorize G, that would help us a lot when we're trying to read the notes. You might want to memorize B, because a lot of the songs are going to have G, and honestly they're all going to have G, A, and B, because those are the first three notes that we just learned. Okay, so we're going to try and start to memorize where those notes are in the treble clef. But we can, if we're not sure, if we at least know where G is, we can look at, oh well, what the next note is just one higher, so that's a step up to A, and then oh, it's a step higher, that's B. It's a step lower, so we're back on A, step lower. Oh, now we're skipping A to get to B. Then we're coming back down to A, and that's on the A space again, and we're down one to G. So this is the thinking that we're going through to try and figure out how to read music. Okay, there's a whole other aspect with the rhythm of the notes. We'll save that for another lesson. Okay, so I'm going to end it here, and bye everyone.